Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 6th of June. Well, we continued with the move right to the 100% coming off that obvious gold rise. And, of course, we had the Azure rising in between there, though this isn't really much of a pace given the fact that, fund money's rolled in and that still doing what it's supposed to. It's just not doing it with any enthusiasm, so to speak, and mostly just there isn't anything that's propelling that, but also not from a negative. We're about to break into a positive shakeout here for the ES. Now, this already took place on the NASDAQ, and that's really what's been driving the support in the ES or the S&P. Couple that with the fact that the euro has come back from its significant decline off the stability situation in Italy, and that's actually going to help the S&P as well. But the outperformance of the NASDAQ certainly is far more dramatic. However, you can see right here we got straight downward climb here of short-term buyers in the form of the steel, and we got rising cyan with that. So it's interesting. We could actually produce a little snake here to a bearish side with the orange being above steel. Cyan's just got to get into there, so you'd have to see it drop a little bit further. But we've already had warnings with the positive extremes, so we know that coming back into the second part of this breakout, we're already going to retrace that level. So the key will be is seeing the NASDAQ retrace a little bit faster or more than the ES as a stabilization. Otherwise, it lets you know that the disproportionate value is just in a few stocks versus the broader market. So this is what we talked about the other day. We needed to see a move above the 23% it started. We'll see if it closes there. You can already see it's already getting overbought within that move. So probably not going to get past 38 with this particular setup. So that will be an interesting opportunity for shorts wanting to add in after this major decline. So go figure that one. And TLT still holding up fairly decent considering it really should be taking a much bigger plummet back into the setup. We'd be looking for the 50% move first. Probably not too far off. Oil stabilizing, it was said that Trump called Saudis, asked them for an extra 1 million barrel a day in production. I don't think that has much to do with anything. This is going to be about, processing and the amount of demand that they have. You can produce all the oil you want, but if you can't refine it and do anything with it, that creates bottlenecks, problems. Gold just stabilizing down at this bottom area. It's improved from a shakeout standpoint now. We just don't have any signal of enough behind it to cause anything to really propel itself. If we look at the 5K, actually we should look at the 50K first, because we've had the Continue Opus Power Mode 2 continuing to ride. It had originally taken the 19 level, I think it did, and then a 17 for secondary entry, so doing quite well with that. Actually, we haven't even looked at a performance report. I think if this trade works out, it's currently up, 96? That should take it to equity highs if it closes up around in that range. It's a little too early for that to be the case. We'll see if that works out, and also haven't looked if the daily has met its target. Yes, it did. I thought it might with that most recent push from the catfish to where we are right here. The previous trade, the Iron Hawk here, it just timed out, basically. I put it at a general stop. If you haven't made a move within, X number of bars, it just closes it out as a break-even setup, just so that you don't expose yourself to added risk, because normally from a signal you should get a move. So created a neutral one from there, and then finally produces the desired win from the intraday chart. Wasn't a whole lot happening. We had these positive extremes. We expected the retrace to there. Once the retrace came in, we were still pretty close to zero on the shakeouts. Then the gold came in, and this was a perfect one because it sort of bounced back and forth, but that signal was clean for a move to the 100% line, which it promptly did. And then after that, got a bit overbought. DOC spread came in, and also a beautiful one too, because it was a DOC spread that took place back over here where steel coming from above is usually pretty darn good short and usually leads to a move all the way back to the lows, which in fact it did. So that was, if we go back to the previous videos I did where we showed the weakest to strongest setups from both buy configurations, but also from DOC spread configurations, and this was a clean one. And from there, though, produced a nice turnaround. The shakeout, lots of orange below the reds, and that really was enough to propel it. But if that wasn't enough, this was another beautiful one right here at the 50% line, gold above. Gave a discount to it. I took the close from there and then added into it at the 50% line with the expectation to the 100 and closed out most of it there, left just 10 running for this continuation, and sure enough, it's doing okay. I would call it spectacular. We're also seeing a similar kind of peak setup that tend to happen right at the tops, and you get this giant spread here. In fact, it's created a little bearish signal. However, you got to have the rollover of the red and green certainly has to drop below for it to fade. So basically, it's one of those retrace to the ABM 76. You get a confluence of support right there, then it bounces back of it. So it's not converted to a short just yet here in pre-market, but even if it does, you know that it's going to be a strong pull intraday during the actual trading hours back up to those levels. So that's what I'd be looking for. And there really wasn't any resistance to this point. If we look at it from the daily standpoint, going back from here, there was really kind of a zero spacing between the 76 going all the way up to well over 2,800 from before, and the 76 right here was about at 47, so we've pretty much taken that one out. So kind of in that no man's land where it can just sort of float. No one's going to be too excited to attack it, and longs kind of can just add a little bit. We would have looked for a little bit more push though, with the new money coming in. So maybe they're holding back a little bit, and again, the whole sell in May concept sometimes can have a little bit of play into that. So that's where we'll follow things for now. I think it's going to be another decent range day. We've seen a big improvement. We're up to 19 now. We had dropped down to the 11 range, and before that we were under 9. So it's a nice expansion that's going to provide a little bit more movement, because there really wasn't a whole lot of activity that from that 50% line. You're not talking about that many points. From the 50% was 45.75, up to the 100 was 52. And, I mean, 7 points, nothing to sneeze at, but not compared to some of the big ranges that we had before. But that's all right. You have to have those flattening periods in order to expand. So, you still hear a lot of gloom and doom out there, and there's some practical reasons to be concerned. We've seen some decent sell signals within these buys, so I think it's something you want to be active with, and definitely keep an eye on those ABMs from a daily standpoint, as well as the shorter time frames. I will put up any charts as they're relevant on the Skype chat. Trade well.